One day, in the June of 1844, Madame Sophie Duval, née Busson, 80 years of age and mother of the mayor of Vibré, a small commune in the département of Sarthe, rose from her chair in the salon of her property at Le Gué de Launay, chose her favourite walking stick from a stand in the hall, and, calling to her dog, made her way, as was her custom at this hour of the afternoon every Tuesday, down the short approach drive to the entrance gate. She walked briskly, with the quick step of one who did not suffer, or perhaps refused to suffer, any of the inconveniences of old age, and her bright blue eyes, the noticeable feature of her otherwise unremarkable face, looked keenly to right and left, pinpointing signs of negligence on the part of the gardener, the gravel under her feet not raked this morning as it should have been, the careless staking of a lily, the grass verges of the formal flower bed raggedly clipped. These matters would be corrected at their proper time, either by her son the mayor or by herself. For although Pierre François had been mayor of Vibré for some 14 years and was approaching his 47th birthday, he knew very well that the house and grounds at Le Gué de Launay were his mother's property, that in all matters referring to their upkeep and maintenance, she must be the final judge and arbitrator. This small estate, which Madame Duval and her husband had settled upon for their retirement at the turn of the century, was no great domain, a few acres of ground only, and the house was of medium size, but it was their own, bought and paid for by themselves, so giving them both the status of landowners and making them the proud equal of any outdated seigneur who still boasted that he held a property by right of birth. Madame Duval adjusted the widow's cap upon her crown of white hair, set in pin curls high on her forehead. As she arrived at the end of the approach drive, she heard the sound she was expecting, the click of the fastened iron gate, and the rasp of the hinge as it swung open, while the gardener, later to be reprimanded, who also served as oddman, groom, and messenger, came towards her with the mail he had fetched from Vibré. Her son, the mayor, usually brought the letters back with him of an evening, if there were any to bring, but once a week, every Tuesday, there came the very special letter written to Madame Duval from her married daughter in Paris, Madame Rozieux. And since this was the most precious moment of her week, the old lady could not bear to wait for it. She had given special orders to the gardener for many months now, ever since the Rozieux had left Ma Mère for Paris, to go himself on foot the few kilometres to Vibré and inquire for the letters addressed to Le Gué de Launay and give them into her hands. This he now did, doffing his hat, and placing uppermost in her hands the expected letter, with his customary remark, "Now Madame is content." "Thank you, Joseph," she replied. "Find your way to the kitchen and see if there is some coffee for you," as though the gardener, who had worked for her at Le Gué de Launay for 30 years, was looking for the kitchen for the first time. She waited until he was out of sight before she followed him, for it was part of the ritual to be preceded by the servant and walk herself, with measured step, at a certain distance in the rear, the unopened envelope clutched tightly to her, the dog at her heels, and then up the steps and into the house, and to the salon, where she would seat herself once more in her chair by the window and give herself up to the long-awaited pleasure of the weekly letter.